It is August 10th, 2021, NXT on USA. Perhaps the first NXT of a new era, the aftermath of what happened on Friday with all the releases. So much speculation over the weekend. What is NXT going to be in the future? Where is it going? What does this mean? We're going to dive into all that and more, talk about the show tonight, talk about the future of the show, talk about more thoughts, more feelings, more rampant speculation. I'm joined, of course, by Alfred Konuwa and NYC Demon Diva, Issa, of course. And let's hop into the news before we get into the show.
Okay, well, some pretty big news stories going on today, not the least of which involves one Max Caster. Now, there was a little bit of confusion here and controversy, but Max Caster and the Acclaimed were pulled for the most recent episode of AEW Dark. This led to speculation and even a report by Ringside News that he was suspended for 2 months without pay, which is being disputed, heavily disputed. And as of this writing, it has not been confirmed whether or not Max Caster has been suspended. All we know is that he has not appeared on AEW programming since that episode of AEW Dark where he had those controversial lines talking about Duke Lacrosse and referencing Simone Biles that seemed to be the subject of a lot of internet outrage. And so things seem to be a little bit rocky with Max Caster. I know there was a report from Fightful that said that he was, on ice for the time being in terms of him and AEW. So what do you guys make of the continued situation with Max Caster and AEW, starting with you, Issa?
I read some of the news and I read that he took all mentions of AEW from his bio. Wow. I don't know what's going on. Like, I feel like a lot of it is speculation. I personally, I don't know about a suspension. I don't think it's a bad idea to take him off TV, Dark, or anything going on for a couple of weeks until this whole issue kind of like goes away for them, and then maybe start running the lines with someone before he comes out there and freestyles, but I personally thought that they were gonna keep him off TV for a little while after that, because that wasn't a very good look for AEW.
Well, I heard about this last week, I think when we were on the air, and it was like, we talked about, we're like, hip hop has a history of kind of being offensive or shock value. I didn't think it was particularly funny or clever. I went back and watched it after, and it was like, holy shit, like every line, first off, this was not like a great flow. This was not something really clever or unexpected. It's like every line had something offensive. Even their final reference to Julia with the Varsity Blondes, like this was like somebody watched 8 Mile and was like, I can do that, and then just wrote like the shittiest offensive rap ever.
I feel like it was somebody watching 8 Mile and then being like, oh, you can't say that. I'm going to write 8 Mile. And that's somebody being like Tony Khan trying to write 8 Mile. Listen, I actually didn't have a problem with Max Caster's rap. I looked at it in the vein of hip hop. And this story has 2 things that I hate more than almost anything in life is, one, a company capitulating to cancel culture, which I think this was a Twitter-driven story. I heard very many correspondence reports that people in the building didn't really seem to mind this. It got the reaction that he thought it would get, and it didn't really become a thing until afterwards when people really got on Twitter and started rallying him up. And it also features people taking hip-hop lines out of context, what I think, in that Max Caster's character is just this. He's a guy who, it's not going to hit 1,000 every single time in terms of whether or not it was good, whether or not it was crossing the line, but he's always going to do this. He's just like, this really is a tame version. Even this rap was tame compared to what John Cena was doing week after week after week, and that John Cena character is one of my favorites ever. I just think that this Max Caster character really shouldn't be in AEW. We've been talking about how, like, who's going to be the first person to leave AEW. I think it should be Max Caster, honestly, if he can get out right now. Like, this is a hip-hop gimmick in AEW, and those 2 things do not. AEW is the least hip-hop company in wrestling right now, so I don't know if he should exist. I don't think he should exist in this company right now. But yes, I get it. I don't think it was his best work. I didn't have a problem with it, but it seems like he does have at least a little bit of heat for what's going on, and I think it's unfortunate, actually, given how talented I think Max Caster really is in the grand scheme of things.
But the context, though, was like that there was like 4 couplets in this, and all of them were offensive. Like each one, this wasn't like Eminem's "My Name Is," where it was like, okay, middle of the road. Now I'm really going to push it. Now I'm going to dial it back a little bit. Like, I think the context of this from start to it just, I didn't think it was very good. And I say this to somebody who just listened to the new Yum Yum's Lure, the new EP by the Insane Clown Posse the other night, and highly enjoyed it. And I think Max Caster is not very talented. So there you go. Take it for what it's worth.
Well, listen, send your angry tweets to Glenn. No, listen, I get it. I'm not even going to get mad at people for, being offended by it. I completely get it. I just don't like the culture of that. We have to get him away, and that for 1 second, oh my God, this guy said a hip hop lyric. He really means it, or the idea that they've got to punish him for this when this is the same president who sat idly by when a 50-year-old man got his face legitimately sliced open on national television. It was the first person in Gorilla to hug Nick Gage and say, "Good job for slicing a man open on national television." It's like, where do we draw the line in terms of what's offensive and what's unacceptable? Because let me tell you something. Would you rather hear an offensive hip hop lyric or get your face sliced open on TV? I'm taking the first one. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, the pizza cutter every day. I love that kind of stuff.
But it's true though. Everyone has a different definition. I just think it was good, and I'll defend something if I think it's good. I think something is easier to defend if I think that it has particular artistic merit or is even enjoyable. We were talking about off the air. It's like we've all seen stuff before that we feel is offensive, but sometimes a good joke is a good joke, a good line is a good line. I just thought with this stuff was lazy. That's where I'm coming from.
But I will say that the thing that I thought I didn't like it, the rap, it wasn't for me. I wasn't offended, but I was just like, that didn't hit with me. It was on a Dark segment, and Dark is supposed to be a YouTube show where they're just highlighting. It's almost like a weird developmental of AEW. And the fact that got so much attention, it's like, wait a minute, none of you guys are watching AEW Dark. I'm sorry, but you're not. Look at the numbers that Dark does compared to Dynamite. You guys saw somebody tweet the clip, and then you got offended. You didn't even go to YouTube to watch it. Like, if it would have not gone viral on Twitter, half of the people that complain about it would have not even seen it.
And I think that's part of it too. We were talking about this, Alfred. Think about how many albums that were mediocre at best that sold 1 million more copies because there was a parental advisory sticker on there.
Of course. Right. No, absolutely. And this is a sport of outrage. I'm not for 1 second going to pretend like it's one thing if you don't like it, and I will defend anybody's right to find you. That's a matter of taste. Like, I'm not going to say it was the best in the world. Yeah. So if you didn't like it, that's one thing. But the fact that this guy needs to be removed from television because of a controversial hip hop lyric, because of his art, like one of my favorite comics of all time is Dave Chappelle. This guy's got some of the best sexual assault jokes I've ever heard, and they're hilarious. He's got pedophile jokes that are hilarious because it's in his art. Not for 1 second do I think Dave Chappelle, the famous comedian, is capable of any of this stuff, and that's how I consume Max Caster. So, I just don't like the idea of AEW just taking this company-wide stance that, we're gonna edit Max Caster, we're gonna keep him in line. He better not say stuff like that because it's just a lyric, and if it went over your head and it wasn't good and people didn't think it was, a lot of people didn't, then I get that, but not the cancellation of Max Caster. Come on.
Yeah, I don't think he should be necessarily suspended. I just think that I think actually, if I were Tony Khan, I would be like, dude, this is your gimmick. Push a little harder. Now you got people's attention. Show them what you can really do.
Absolutely.
Turn this into it. And I go back to the idea of Eminem. Look what Eminem did between his first and second record, where he really displayed his artistry. I think you got people's attention with shock value. Now's your time to prove that you're not just saying these things just to get attention.
Right. No, absolutely. And if the talent exceeds the shock, then it wouldn't maybe have been as big of a problem. So maybe that was speaking to the fact that maybe it wasn't his best work.
Yes. Bad Keith Gaming, $2 saying Alfred, he did it during Fight for the Fallen, the pizza cutter spot. That's right. Was that during that? The pizza cutter spot? Was that
Fight for the Fallen or was that Fighter Fest Night 2?
Oh, a lot of F's. A lot of F's.
I thought it was Fight for the Fallen. I thought so.
One of those. Yeah, but I mean, regardless of when he did it, I'm just saying this. He seemed perfectly fine for this, but there's just it's just weird how they move the goalposts with these stories. Okay, well, this isn't really a news story, but this is something that WrestleVotes, WWE insider account that gets a lot right, and tweeted out ahead of tonight's NXT show that tensions were running high at the WWE NXT taping. Now, of course, this is a news report that they came out with, but I mean, one would figure after the weekend that some of these NXT people have of 13 NXT talents being let go, that tensions would run high, and this is just a confirmation of it. And that WrestleVotes tweeted out the mood at the PC today ahead of tonight's NXT show. Whoo boy, tensions running high to say the least. A lot of in that who boy. And so, yeah, a lot of people walking on eggshells, it looks like, or maybe feeling nervous about their jobs. And can you blame them, Glenn?
No, I mean, have you ever worked for a company that had massive layoffs or even a sizable layoff? the mood is tense. I remember in the .com era, like departments would get laid off, and we're going. What was the gossip site back in the day? Effed Company. I won't say the full name, but Effed Company. We go there to read the rumors about what was going on at the company where we worked at to figure out if we were next. It's tense. So I think, we're going to talk about this, about like, what does this really mean for the future of NXT? Obviously, Meltzer had some very, very detailed reporting where he got into what he heard. But regardless of that or how accurate that was, you said 13 of your coworkers get let go, and this was on the heels of other coworkers being like, whether on the main roster or whatnot. Like, there's got to be a sense of like, my job probably isn't safe.
Certainly.
That's not a good environment for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you look at the magnitude of stars that they've cut. Some of the bigger stars, somebody like Bronson Reed cut really, on the heels of a big push, and a lot of people who they were just recently doing something with in WWE and NXT are just let go. Yeah. So it does seem there is a randomness to it, that it's like it doesn't matter who you are, you need to be on your P's and Q's.
Yeah, and I have to add, as somebody that covers and obviously enjoys the product, it was weird for me to watch it today with the news of what happened Friday still lingering in my head. Imagine for them, for the talent working there, what it must have felt like to come to work today. Because I gotta be honest, when 8:00 hits, I was like, okay, here we go. But I wasn't in the most animated mood to watch NXT tonight, and it's because of everything going on right now. So I can only imagine what they were feeling in there today.
And let's get into some speculation and conspiracies. I know we got some other news, so we're going to get to that. But one thing that was telling today is we did not hear a word leak out that like Triple H or HBK gave a big rally the troops, morale boosting speech behind the scenes. They didn't start it off with like a "This is NXT" moment or something where it was like thanking the fan. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things they didn't do tonight. Mm-hmm. Which I think is interesting, whether behind the scenes.
Why would they? Like how Triple H is pretty much, from my standpoint, been neutered of his powers.
Well, like that's Triple what H, we think. Yeah,
for him to go over there and be like, "Come on, guys, don't worry about it." It's like, well, yeah, what do you know? Like you didn't even report him. But depending on who you believe, it doesn't look like Triple H was the man who led these cuts or whatnot. So, and even if he was, let's say he was the person who cut 13 people. Then for that guy to go there and say, we are NXT, it's like, F you, dude, you cut 13 people. Who are we really? So I think this is a tough situation for Triple H to be put in terms of rallying the troops, given, the nature of people being cut.
True.
I think that we should just, instead of being sad that this might be the end of an era, we should just smile that it happened, because we did have a couple of really good years with NXT, and if you were there for it,
that's it already amazing. Like be glad that it happened. Like,
be glad that it happened. Remember when your favorite would get called up and you thought it was such a big deal? I was there for Shinsuke's debut. Yeah. A tear rolled down my face, and then look at what they did with him. So I mean, come on.
But you're right though, Alfred. It would have been a little bit like in Succession with like Kendall Roy trying to go in and like reassure everybody, and then like 2 days later he shuts it down anyhow.
Right? Like, we can't trust anybody right now. And that's probably part of the paranoia that's going on. It's like, who do you trust? You don't know who to listen to. The last thing anybody wants to hear. I mean, right before you get fired, people come up, oh, don't worry, you're the vote of confidence. That's the famous words. That's what every NFL coach will give a quarterback, a vote of confidence before they bench him. So, the last thing anybody wants to hear is stuff like that.
I can't think of any other industry where people have to really learn about what's going on through just like the internet equivalent of like fanzines. I mean, yes, I know there's some real journalists that cover this, but this isn't like I'm picking up the Hollywood Reporter and learning that my show was canceled. You know what I mean? Like in the grand scheme of things, it's not like, I mean, Alfred, you actually have one of the best bylines in all of this entire business. But if you look like Forbes, ESPN, you know what I mean? But those aren't the outlets that are breaking these stories a lot of the time.
Exactly.
That's really weird.
Broken stories comes from within like the dirt sheets and all the stuff, and some of which tend to be wrong, as we might have seen with that Max Caster story. There's all kinds of, it is like the Wild West still to pro wrestling, where it's like a landmine or a minefield where you have to be careful of some of these stories that'll just explode in your face and not even be true. Yeah,
and I think Wrestling Inc. does a very good job of walking that line. I say that as someone who reads the site.
Not the best.
Yeah, absolutely. There, Raj, look at me putting you over. Send me that PayPal payment. Jackson Darkness Gaming, $5, saying, anyone else feel Elias's gimmick changes because he saw the releases and hurried before Laurinaitis sent out more releases? LOL. I
mean, this is unfortunately, I've seen too many examples of this.
I feel weird about that because I feel like Elias. I mean, I'm excited. I'm not excited. I'm not excited about anything, but I am.
Except Roman Reigns and Friday night.
Except Roman Reigns, right? I'm intrigued by it, but the thing that bothers me a little bit is that I feel like Elias was such a crowd gimmick, and now that the crowds are back, you're gonna kill the guitar and all that. Like, why didn't you do it through the Thunderdome then? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as soon as the vignette came on, people were chanting "Walk with Elias," and I'm like, well, apparently no more. So
yeah, well, the fans are just contrarians. I think, right? I mean, like,
oh yeah.
So what else we got? What else is in the news?
Final story. It would have been a better transition to do the NXT story, but I'll just really quickly do the Bray Wyatt. There were some kind of scuttlebutt and rumors about his health, particularly his mental health, as to why he was away. And Fightful recently said that those were falsely reported mental health issues, and he is actually 100% healthy. He's expected to be able to compete late October 29th, but no health issues for Bray Wyatt. He seems like he's 100% ready whenever or if he wants to come back to wrestling. By late October, he should be able to do that. So just put that out there, because I was hearing all kinds of crazy things about Bray Wyatt, both before and after the release, about his health and whatnot, and none of that stuff seems to be true.
And that's part of what also makes this industry such a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it's like things just catch on, right? Like just speculation sometimes becomes fact very easily.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's that. And combined with the internet, like most industries have to deal with that anyway, with the built-in conspiracy theories and stuff like that happen on the internet anyway. But with wrestling, there are other forces that kind of push that into happening, it seems.
Yeah.
Well, I think Bray has got some great days and performances left in him. I'm very excited to see where he goes next. Jackson Darkness Gaming $2 says Ringside News has one more round of cuts before 22. This is the point. Like, there's all these different sites that, depending on what you read, and you never know. And I'm not discrediting anybody, but you never know what is the lens of the person reporting it and how they're doing the secondhand. And I think in wrestling, because it is such an echo chamber, so many people repeat each other's stories. There's a need, like, well, we have to add a little flavor to this, you know? So a lot of the times, and I've done this before on the show. I mean, I famously called Charlotte getting the belt before Mania to be put in the triple threat with Becky and Ronda, but just felt like that's where it was going. I didn't know anything. I was like, I could see them doing this, you know? It's like, and then people are like, yeah, that could totally happen. And then it happens. I wasn't right. I didn't know anything. It just felt like something. Right. You know, and I feel like there's a lot. It's very hard to separate sometimes.
It really is. And I don't even, as much as, okay, there is an element of journalism of what I do, but I can consider myself more of a columnist in terms of opinion guys, because believe me, my DMs are wide open. I get all kinds of stuff in terms of quote unquote stories that could be breaking news. And sometimes they end up being true, but sometimes they end up being complete hogwash. And I don't want to sit there and have to sift through all the BS, because there's carnyism and there's people with agendas, and maybe they do want a story out there because of a certain reason. So there is a lot that goes on in terms of wrestling.
Yeah, my DMs I get from wrestlers, hey, can you retweet this? And occasionally I saw something you said and it was funny. That's the extent of it. I get no scoop. Or can you hook me up with a Blue Chew code? Like, that is also the tweet sometimes that I get from
interesting. Wow. See, now that's a story.
Yes, or I heard you're the guy to get ads for my podcast. Like, I get things like that, but never any scoops, never any inside word.
Wait a minute, who's asking for the Blue Chew code? Let's hear some names.
There are HIPAA laws about this, Alfred. You can't.
No, I'm just kidding.
Health and
wait, if you can't get it without a prescription, then technically speaking, it's not really HIPAA. Okay.
Right.
We are not going down this road.
You brought it up.
Although the funniest part, like, can't say anymore. But okay, so, but let's talk, and this brings us to tonight's main topic, NXT. So, I've had time to think about this. Friday, we were all blindsided by the news of all these releases. What does it mean? I tuned in tonight expecting, it's a new era. It's going to go back to being a game show. Hell, they're going to replace it with a new season of Tough Enough that they just pulled out of their ass. Who knows? Yeah. It's going to be different, right? And here's the thing tonight. So if you look at the cuts, and this isn't me defending WWE at all, because I do think there is truth, and I think that we can read into this. But tonight, Bronson seemed like he was poised to do something with Adam Cole, so he's not there. Bobby Fish was doing something in Diamond Mine. He's not there. Mercedes was injured. She'd been used and seemed like she had a storyline pre-injury. I feel like a lot of the other talent weren't really active. We were talking off the air about Jake Atlas. Jake Atlas has a huge fan base. I love Jake Atlas. Jake Atlas, I don't think was ever really given anything storyline-wise. So I feel like if you look at the quality of the product we saw tonight, this did not feel like a different show than last week. I think whatever change is going to happen is going to be maybe much longer and slower and maybe not apparent 3 months from now, maybe not 6 months from now, maybe not even until a year from now, where we see this difference. But tonight felt very much like the show that we've been watching, with one exception. And I have to disclaimer this. I was very worried when they said that Beth Phoenix was on vacation as opposed to on vacation. Because she did tweet the NXT logo the other day. If Beth Phoenix is gone, I might stop watching this show. I love Beth Phoenix on commentary. She's
been great, and I love that. I didn't know we had this in your back pocket the whole time.
I made
that. That's amazing. That's amazing.
I'm worried. I just think it's a weird week to be off. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Especially during Index first date. She's Index #1 supporter. Like, I needed her there to talk about their date, and she wasn't there. I missed her on commentary a lot, and I hope, pure speculation, that she's not, that she's coming back next week.
That's what I thought. He said when she was on commentary and I saw the first Index segment, I figured, okay, so she's going to show up at some point, and that's going to be the explanation. But I didn't know she was going to be off the whole show.
She should have showed up on their date.
Yeah, that's what I thought she was going to do. That would be great.
Rooting for you too. Dessert's on me. So she was really missed tonight. I really, really hope that she is going to continue on commentary. But okay, so with that in mind, though, I don't know. I mean, Issa, how do you feel about NXT going forward with these changes, with these cuts, with these rumors, a lot of which is coming from Dave Meltzer, and what he's saying about no more short wrestlers, nobody that can't be a main roster talent? How do you feel about these supposed changes coming to NXT?
Look, I personally saw what you said very true. I thought we were watching the same show we've been covering every Tuesday. I didn't feel a huge change outside of maybe the mood, and not even the mood of the show, maybe the mood that I was personally taking it in. I just think these rumors just sound so outrageous, in my opinion, because I can see it. But we also all know that Vince supposedly loves the big tall guys, so it could just be so easy to just, you have a platform to just say this and just to bury the company because everybody's so unhappy with everything that it's the cool thing now to hate everything that WWE does. So why not throw more, wood in the fire? It's my opinion. It's just like, it's impossible nowadays with the new style of wrestling that people are getting attached to not hire the smaller guy that's super technical, and I feel like NXT has proven, maybe Vince is not aware because he's not in charge of it, but NXT has proven that the smaller guy can work if you really put the right storyline behind them. But I'm not going to let the rumors change my point of view on NXT until I actually see these differences. I didn't see any difference tonight. I feel bad for everybody that got released. I think it's exciting times to watch other wrestling because of all the talent that's out there right now, but the show was the same overall.
And Alfred, let's talk about this with your outlook. Let's talk about the quality of your sources and who's feeding these scoops and rumors. We've had wrestlers on this podcast that would talk about when they would talk to quote unquote the dirt sheets, they would always put themselves over, sort of push an agenda that would favor them. I'm sure depending who you talk to at any company you've ever worked for, depending on who you talk to there, it's either a sinking ship and you better flee right now because it's all going down in flames, or it's amazing times, the boss is the best, everything's together. Like, everybody has their perspective on it. Part of it could also be the sources that are talking about this have a sense of what they wanted to happen isn't, or the people they believed in aren't going to be pushed anymore, and maybe they're worried that their own status is diminishing. And yes, I even take that to mean Triple H or HBK.
Certainly. I mean, that can be it. Sources can be very flawed, especially another example would be if a writer sees some storyline that they want to do that they think sucks, then they'll try to drum up the story that, plans are for this person to wear a cape and a mask to the ring. And then once that gets out, they're trying to sabotage the gimmick before it gets going. I mean, stuff like that happens all the time. But this does only seems like a new era just because of who's cut. But just like you guys, in terms of looking at this show, It did seem like the same old NXT, and maybe that's because we're leading up to NXT TakeOver 36, and they just feel like they need to wrap up these storylines. So we'll see what NXT is after that. But yeah, to me, watching this show, this did not seem like the dawning of a new era. This did not seem like they're going back to what it used to be in terms of that competition show that they had. And I hope to God that's not what this becomes. But for now, it does seem, NXT has been seeming like they've been in transition just because they have that breakout tournament. They have a lot of new talent coming in with that, and then they've got a lot of people on their way out now. But on the merits of just watching how this TV show is produced, it does not seem like the dawning of a new era.
But wouldn't you rather watch Adam Cole run around the ring carrying a keg to prove his dexterity, speed, and prowess? Wouldn't that enhance the show? To perhaps pair him up with Dolph Ziggler, perhaps, who could mentor him and teach him a thing or two about this business of wrestling? No, and I think that's the thing. I tuned in tonight, so ready to hate tonight, and to be like, you know what? I'm going to stop. If I'm going to tell Raj, we're going to start covering Ring of Honor and Impact and NWA because we're going to give love to all these other promotions that are keeping the spirit of the NXT we've loved alive. Instead, I was like, this didn't feel like a slap in the face. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm willing to ride this out and see how it happens. I'm worried.
Yeah.
I'm worried and I'm concerned, but I don't think the sky is falling yet.
Well, no, because we experience these stages of NXT all the time. I personally think NXT has felt a little bit different since going from the network into the USA network, right?
Absolutely.
But I do feel like we go through the stages of NXT where it's just loaded with talent and they get drained because they go to the main roster and we have to start getting to know a whole new roster again. I do feel like NXT right now is 50-50. 50% people that have been there for a very, very long time and 50% of people that I know nothing about. That's what I feel NXT is at right now. And
much like SNL, it should always be that. I think where you have your veterans, you have your Keenans, your Phil Hartmans, the people that will never leave the show, and then you've got new talent coming in all the time, and some of them last to make an impact and some of them don't. But no, I think I'm curious to see where it's going. I'm again concerned, a little worried, but the sky is not falling yet, and we'll see what happens. Before this scrolls off, 30 Undertaker 313 $5 saying, "How do you view the Acclaimed lyrics against Hit Row, who can do both? I do not like lyrics for talking about mental health. Is Hit Row any better?" I got to be honest, and maybe this speaks to the talent of Hit Row. Hit Row is going a pretty good clip there. I think that's almost the way to do it. If you rap fast enough, man, you could say just about anything and people aren't going to pick up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a fair comparison to compare the Acclaimed to Hit Row. It's pretty much the same type of gimmick, but I think you could do both. I like the edginess of a Max Caster, and I like Hit Row is still edgy. They just do it in their own way, and they do it in the confines of WWE really well. I think Hit Row is very good at not really being as offensive as they are edgy. And I think they're just very talented too. So I like what both people do, and I don't think there should be one or the other. I don't think Max Caster should be more like Hit Row, and I don't think Hit Row should be more like Max Caster. I like that they both bring different things to pro wrestling.
But Hit Row legitimately has a flow. Max Caster is like a notch above. My name is Barney Rubble, and I'm here to say I love Fruity Pebbles in a major way.
No, I think Max Caster has bars. I like how Max Caster raps. I like how he does it one at a time because he's looking for a reaction. So his isn't as much about the hip hop. His is equally about what he's saying and the reaction it gets. So he does it one at a time. But I'm sure he could, if he wanted to go in the overdrive mode.
I'm being a little hyperbole. But no,
I think bars aside, Hit Row has a better presentation. When Hit Row comes out, they look like stars to where the first couple of times I saw the Acclaim, it took me listening to what they were really saying to go, oh, wait, these guys are good. When they come out, they don't look like stars to where Hit Row, you stop what you're doing to watch.
And by the way, John Cena's delivery was on par with the Super Bowl shuffle for much of the early run of his career.
You love the Super Bowl shuffle.
Love the Super Bowl
shuffle. You brought it up.
It could be a podcast, but nothing but the Super Bowl shuffle. We're going to go verse by verse. Stellar Justin Lopez, $1.99. I expect a full reboot after TakeOver 36. I mean, we kind of do that anyhow. I feel like, especially if Adam Cole's going to the main roster, that's going to happen. Let me call this out, though. Tonight, our NXT numbers here live keep getting bigger and bigger. We're almost at Raw numbers. We're doing better than we did on SmackDown. People are interested. People are really, really interested.
They're not watching.
What's that? Or they're not watching. They're showing up.
They're not watching. They don't watch, so they watch a recap to find out what happened.
Even with Raw, that kind of stopped though on Mondays. That was that way for a while, and then people were like, "eh." But okay, so to that point, before we dive into this, though, let me just say this as well. The thing that WWE needs to be aware of is alienating their hardcore audience, because if I have learned anything in the last 6 months, the easiest thing to do, and oh my God, it's one of the 5 best feelings I've ever had in my life, is to stop watching wrestling. Like on Mondays, oh my God, it feels so good. It's like Christmas and my birthday rolled into one. Just every Monday. When I see people tweeting about it, you're like, you know what? I'm going to watch Midnight Run tonight. Then you know what? I'm going to watch the direct-to-TV, another Midnight Run with Christopher McDonald replacing Robert De Niro. Then I'm going to watch Midnight Run for Your Life, the 3rd one. Didn't know that existed, did you? Or the 4th one, Midnight Runaround. You know, and I can do that now.
Enjoy the pain.
Yeah, there are 3 Midnight Run sequels that were TV movies in the mid-90s.
Wow.
Yes. All better than Monday Night Raw. And if I learned anything, I mean, Robert De Niro is good, but he's no Christopher McDonald. Anyhow, but that's what WWE needs to be aware of. The competition for people that can watch Midnight Run in its direct-to-TV movies. No, the fact that people could just stop watching wrestling and you have no desire to go back. And then I go on Twitter on Monday and I see what people are tweeting about Raw. And oh my God, I think, thank God I stopped watching this. This looks so dumb. I'd rather go clean out the garage that my wife's been bugging me to do for 2 years now than watch Monday Night Raw.
Good Lord. To your point, WWE does say their company line is that everything is competition, which is kind of like a corporate thing to say, but they're absolutely right. Like if WWE does not deliver, there are a million things people could be watching.
Yeah. Bear Hudson, this conversation is going to keep going. $5 saying, I do believe that you have to change your lyrics based on the environment you're in. I could not rap lyrics about NWA in a white setting or stage. Yes. Well, an interesting argument. NWA had radio-friendly versions of their albums. If you've ever heard them, it is weird if you're used to the other ones. 2 Live Crew released clean versions of their albums. They went on the Phil Donahue show and did the F Shop with the changed lyrics. It was very strange. It's on YouTube. You got to watch that. So I guess know your audience, but to your point, Alfred, and I guess this goes back to the argument of wrestling and heel heat. It's like, well, if you want to get people mad, go out and say something offensive.
That's the thing. I mean, This is what now. This might not be the best example, but New Jack and the Gangsters went to Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and that was in the height of the OJ trial. And they were like, "Shout out to my boy OJ Simpson." They went to the South and did that, and it's amazing to watch. And I just love watching. I think it's so hilarious. But it really riled people up, and it wasn't the best. It was great heel heat, but it wasn't the best for their health. It wasn't best for their safety, and I don't know if it drew much money. But I am a big fan of heels drawing heat, and Max Caster is a fish out of water in AEW, which is not conducive to hip hop. And so for him to do that, and maybe that is part of his heel heat, but as you see, there are consequences, unfortunately.
And history how will history judge it? Wait and see. Because yes, that moment, the OJ moment, in the historical context, that is, oh my God, that's up there with like Andy Kaufman and like what he was doing. I mean, yeah, that's right. Small timer. Max Caster, I don't know if history will be as kind, but we shall see. Terry Allen Jr., $3 predictions for content, WWE 2K22 at SummerSlam. We have not seen gameplay yet, have we?
How? They have to keep fixing it because they keep releasing people.
It's true.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough for them.
I would be like, you guys gotta stop this, but we're not releasing a game.
Make your own video game, okay? We're done.
Right?
New Day Rock 77, $2 saying y'all just wondering, y'all think the crowd will eventually like Baron Corbin?
I love what he's doing right now. Yeah. That TikTok he made today, did you guys see it?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Oh, my God. Go into the WWE TikTok account. I retweeted it, actually. It is so funny. He's just, like, being humiliated. And then at the end, he's like, but with the money that I'll make from this TikTok. And they're like, oh, we're not going to pay you for this. It is so funny. I think he's very committed to this character.
Yeah, I think the only reason that they don't like him by now is WWE still holding on to him being a heel and presenting him as a heel. Like, this is a character I think is ready to be a babyface. I think he's doing a good job with the character, and it's a sympathetic figure, but they still insist on him. They're positioning him as a really major heel, like as a guy that you're not supposed to cheer for. And I think it's making fans a little resistant to cheer for him. But if they are ready to embrace him as a babyface, WWE that is, then the fans will follow right in step, because I do think it's very entertaining.
Yeah. And, it's very interesting thinking where we're at right now. We're going to get to NXT in a moment, but thinking that this Friday, AEW Rampage starts. You're going to have another hour of wrestling competing for eyeballs each week on TV. Interesting timing. You know, it's like I said earlier, man, if NXT does misstep in where they're going, Ring of Honor, Impact, NWA.
Impact has been putting on some really good shows lately.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. If you don't like the booking at one company, start watching another. You know, I'm really excited about what Mickie James is doing with NWA Empower.
Yeah.
Pay-per-view that's coming up later this month. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about. And this is good also if NXT is going to stop hoarding indie talent and AEW is taking bigger swings at bigger names. I think that's very good for Ring of Honor, Impact, and NWA.
Yeah, it's good for the health of the industry because there was that once upon a time where WWE is locking a lot of people up and signing a lot of people to contract, which is the opposite of what we're seeing now when they had everybody on the contract. But now that they're releasing the talent back into the scene, you know, everybody always says, oh, what's it going to do in AEW? And they think it's like a 2-horse race. But there are a lot of people who I think would fit in a lot of different promotions. Even shout out to MLW, which is one of my favorites.
Yes, and even some of these like independent wrestling shows that are being booked around the cities where we're getting these big shows. If you look at their cards, they're stacked.
Yeah,
it's going to be so much fun. WrestleMania weekend should be a fun one too. When you see like these companies are going to have all of these talents, and you have forbidden doors open where people are collaborating with each other. I think it's a great time to watch alternative wrestling at this point. And I used to be a hardcore WWE person, and I've been watching everything and enjoying it. Is it perfect? No, but no company's running a perfect show right now.
All I want is NWA to succeed enough that 20 years from now, people are like, did you know Billy Corgan was in a band once? That's like, could you imagine if you found out like Vince McMahon was in like a prog rock band in the 70s and then went on to become a wrestling impresario? Like, I want that to happen. That's why I want NWA to succeed.
That would be amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Barrett Hudson, $5. Do you think a group like Nation of Domination could exist today, or would they have to change their approach because of recent events over the summer?
Well, they wouldn't be heels, that's for sure. I don't think they'd be heels. And you know what? Nation of Domination was a really good group as heels because they really got to antagonize the audience in terms, and you knew that's kind of what something like really felt inside. So I think it would be a watered down, and I think unfortunately it'd be like a woke version of Nation of Domination. So I don't think the Nation of Domination as we know it, you know, it's based on the Nation of Islam, which is very militant, very extremist, and so I don't know if that would exist today on national television with all these sponsors.
Right.
Remember it was weird when the Hurt Business started last year when they were referring to them as Benjamin Lashley MVP. And people were like, is that intentional?
Yeah.
Put it in that order. Probably for the best it didn't go down that road.
Absolutely.
Because WWE
is great.
Her business is fantastic, but WWE, like, talk about a company. Vince McMahon, I trust less with issues of cultural sensitivity. I would trust Michael Scott to put on a more culturally sensitive product than Vince McMahon.
You know, that'd be really funny. That'd be a great episode of The Office, that's for sure. Michael Scott.
I would trust Paula Deen to put on a more culturally sensitive product than Vince McMahon. I would trust Don Imus more to put on a culturally sensitive product than Vince McMahon.
I'm done.
I'm trying to think as to who else got canceled recently.
Yeah.
That's all I got. That's all I got off the top of my head. It's Z, $5 with the NXT reboot coming. What happens to the veterans? Are they called up to make way for the new young talent kept on the roster to put them over? I mean, we don't know that a reboot is happening. I mean, maybe it is, but there are some people that, like, if Adam Cole doesn't go to the main roster, like, I don't know, man. There's only so many lifer spots, and I feel like Gargano.
Yeah, he's gonna end up dressed up like a waiter in a first date video package, like Johnny Gargano. That's what's gonna happen if he stays in NXT.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like heel Johnny Gargano. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing left for Johnny Gargano to do. So if he doesn't get called up, it's only going to go downhill from here. And that's sad. We're talking about the guy that put some of the better, you know, NXT matches. And now he's just wearing a fake mustache and a wig on a video package.
Hey, that shit worked tonight. I mean, so let's get into this. Dakota Kai versus Sarai. I'm always saying her name wrong, right? I feel like I've gotten in my head.
I don't know how to say her name.
Sarai,
yeah.
Like
they were saying, were they saying Sarai? Now I forgot. I think they were saying Sarai tonight.
Yeah, I feel like they changed it.
I call her like 3 different names on my screen.
I know, and I feel bad. And I feel like I've learned the pronunciation so many times, and I just I see it written, and that's how I want to read it.
Yeah.
Sarai. There we go. Sarai, not Sarai, because it's got Ray, like so I'll remember Ray like the Y. There we go.
See, I already messed that up again.
She already in my head, I'm like, Saray. Ray. Got it. Dakota Kai versus Saray tonight. Ember Moon not cleared to compete. Dakota Kai getting a win. This is building up her championship match against Raquel Gonzalez at NXT TakeOver, and they cut promos, or rather, Gonzalez cut a promo on Dakota after this match, rushing out as Kai retreated. What did you think of this match to open the show, Alfred?
I thought it was a very good match. I mean, I love Sarai. It's really Saray, whatever we're going to call her. I think she's really good. Dakota took a hell of a drop kick from her. I don't think it was because I think her last match, I can't remember who it was, but she drop kicked her right in the face and like kind of stiffed her. But Dakota, I thought, did a good job taking it and making it look like she did. And I thought they worked well together. This is supposed to be Saray versus Ember Moon, and I would imagine Saray was going to win that match, but now they kind of did a switch, and Dakota Kai beat her, and I didn't think either of them needed to lose tonight, so I was very surprised that they put these two together. I thought the finish was going to be Raquel Gonzalez just running in there and chasing after Dakota Kai was going to be a non-finish, but I thought this was a good match.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree. I thought it was an excellent match. And I do think that it was a weird booking decision because they both needed the wins, or I was undefeated up till tonight, But if you're going to put Dakota against Raquel, you have to start building her up and giving her some credible wins, and that makes her look like a credible contender for this title. And she looked great tonight. So I was happy. They have very good chemistry, and I enjoyed the match.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a good match at TakeOver. I'm looking forward to it.
They've done a good job with this whole feud, so I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. Should we talk about the index segments now?
Sure.
Dexter picking up Indy. So Gargano and LeRae full parent mode with this, and we got this house for them to give them each their own rooms. I mean, it's just kind of crazy how they far they went with this tonight. This is something that I almost love that. On the main roster, I feel like they'll do hokey humor, but NXT sometimes takes it so much further that it becomes cool again.
Yeah, like you were talking about Andy Kaufman earlier. It's a little bit like that. Like, it's so ironic and so silly that it ends up being really funny. I just thought it was funny that they were calling them children. Like, we've done everything for these children.
I know.
It's like two grown people.
I know.
Yeah. So we had the "What are your intentions" with Indy. We had Candice telling AD that she needs to bring protection. She pointed out she's in great shape. She doesn't need protection. She showed off her muscles. They went to a restaurant. Oh my God, we had the call. So we had the humor. We had the first date meeting the parents humor. We had the restaurant. We had the walkie-talkie humor of being spied on the date.
Yeah.
Like, there were so many great tropes with this tonight. I absolutely loved these segments. I guess the question is, Issa, where does this go from here?
A mixed tag match?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, between Gargano and Candice and Dexter and Indy, I would assume. I have fun. I have fun watching these video packages. They were so absolutely ridiculous that it worked, like you said, Glenn. I was like, when I saw Johnny Gargano in that outfit, I was like, what is happening, and then like Dexter taking the cake to the face, and the whole thing was great. I really was waiting for Beth. I felt like we needed Beth Phoenix, only because she's such a fan of Index. It bothered me that she wasn't there for the first day, but yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I really like these. Yeah, I want to see like a family dinner segment next time where he comes over almost like he's meeting the family, and they do a whole thing. And I think that'd be a good way to lead to a mixed tag, is if they had a family dinner and it turned into whether it's a food fight or somebody gets put through a table or whatnot. But I thought that these were really funny. That
should be the match at the family dinner. That should be a cinematic match.
It should.
This was so good tonight. This was so well done. It was very funny. And I think NXT still does this really, really well. I really hope they continue down this line because the storyline has just been fantastic. Alfred, what did you think about Hit Row's promo against Legado del Fantasma?
I thought it was good. They didn't, we didn't get too much from them. I would have liked to see more of Hit Row tonight, but they haven't really gotten out of first gear, it seems like, with this feud with Legado del Fantasma, and now they're really close to NXT TakeOver 36. So, I like what they had to say and how they disrespected them and whatnot, but because it started off so awkwardly, I think that they're still trying to, and then they've had matches that didn't have a finish and whatnot. So I just feel like these two needed a lot more time together.
Yeah, I agree, but I did like the promo. I really do like what they do every week. But this feud, maybe it's because it's a heel on heel feud. There's something about this feud that's not clicking for me. And in addition, I just, as a fan of Legado del Fantasma, I just feel like Hit Row needs to win this, and they can't keep taking losses. So it's just like, how much further are we going to bury these guys? Because right now it just doesn't look too good for them, just based on their last few, their last couple of rivalries, and now this one that I think like it would be the smart thing for Hit Row to win. So it's like, ooh, where do you go with Legado from here? There's, what do you do with them? So maybe I'm thinking ahead, but I would assume that Hit Row has to win this. So what happens to Legado? Like a couple of months ago, they were the biggest things in NXT.
Yeah, and they're one that I worry about on the main roster and how that's going to go.
Yeah, you have Santos Escobar calling out Karrion Kross like a badass, and for a second you believe he could have beat Karrion Kross, and now it just seems like he's so far down from that moment, and that didn't seem that long ago.
We had Dragunov come out, take the mic tonight, and interrupted by Pete Dunne, which set up the main event for tonight's show. We'll talk about that in a bit. Then we had LA Knight squash Andre Chase after he's out there with Cameron Grimes. Ted DiBiase comes out there. And so, yeah, I mean, they're setting up a rematch for TakeOver 36, but the stipulation that if Grimes loses, Ted DiBiase is going to be LA Knight's butler.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way of getting there. Listen, I love Ted DiBiase, and I think he's still capable of great promos, but in a live setting, he seems to forget his lines, and that seemed to happen a couple of times. And even toward the end of his promo, you could hear LA Knight feed him his line where he says, "You're on." So poor Ted had to just, they make him memorize all these lines. And that, if you're like a 6-year-old man and you have to memorize these lines in such short order, I don't think that's the easiest thing to do cognitively. And he seemed to struggle with that. But I still love Ted DiBiase, the character, and I like his involvement in this feud. And I like that they're now getting to where I think we all assumed they would get to, where now Cameron has a chance for redemption.
Yeah. Although it's still great.
Do you guys want to see him as the butler? Because low key, I do. I want to see him.
Absolutely. 100%.
I think Virgil wants to see Ted DiBiase as a butler. Like, hey, how does it feel now?
Ooh. No, that's what they should do. LA Knight should bring Virgil in to then manage Ted.
That'd be great.
They need to do that.
They would.
Oh, that's talk about a payoff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
long-term storytelling. Right there.
We got a vignette for Gigi Dolan tonight, and Gigi Dolan got a win over Amari Miller. I'm glad to see them doing something with Gigi and giving her a little bit of a push. I hope this sticks.
I like her. I like Gigi a lot. I think she's really good. And yeah, it was definitely different. This is the one thing that felt new in terms of on NXT, or something that we were watching something different, is that they're giving her more time. Now she's with JC Jane, and she had the really cool finisher that she showed too. It was like a domino stretch power bomb or whatnot, but I like her.
They're going somewhere with her and Mandy Rose, right?
Yes.
Like that's what the promo meant with all the roses. Definitely. And Mandy tweeted. I'm very curious about what they're gonna do with Mandy Rose in NXT. And this got my attention. I'm intrigued.
It's got to be a battle for the women's tag titles. Ultimately, them against Frankie leading the Robert Stone brand, right? That seems.
Yeah, I could see something like that. You know what's weird about this show, and this is watching this show in the post NXT cuts, is that I'm watching Gigi Dolan. It's like they're clearly giving her a new push and planning for her. But after all the things they did with her tonight, I was like, well, she's good for this week, So hopefully that'll make her the next week. Like, at least she's going to be here for this week.
Man.
Well, I felt that way about Frankie. Like, did we even see her tonight? And it's just like when she first showed up and she's like calling out Io and Raquel and Mercedes, and you're like, oh, it's going to be exciting. And now she's with Robert Stone. So, yeah, I'm with you. You have to go week by week because I don't know. I feel like the old NXT had such long time storytelling, and now they just do everything so fast. So, I don't know. But you're right. For this week, she's okay.
Was Mercedes the only woman that they cut from this last batch of cuts?
I believe so, yeah.
Interesting.
Let me think about it. Yeah, I think Mercedes is the only one.
Man, I mean, I know beating a dead horse here, but 205 Live, that seems primed to become the women's show if they wanted to go that route, because it seems like they've still got a fairly healthy stockpile of talent.
Yeah, Yeah, they definitely still do. And we'll see when it's all said and done. And hopefully sooner rather than later, they'll be done with all these cuts when they finally have the roster that they feel is enough people to move forward with. Hopefully they do. At this point, why not take a risk? Because a women's show, I think, would do much better than what 205 Live is doing. Depending on the star power you have on that show, I think 205 Live is oversaturating the market in terms of more wrestling for the sake of wrestling. And I think a women's show, at least short term, at least initially, would pique somebody's interest.
Yeah. It's Z $2 saying Corbin is Knight's lackey to make some cash.
I mean, the connection is there.
I wish they would do more crossovers with these storylines.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this promo. Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole facing off out there with William Regal. The undisputed finale at NXT TakeOver 36. It's going to be 2 out of 3 falls, and there's going to be 3 different stipulations in the match, which means it's going to the 3rd fall. Like,
for sure.
1000%.
Pretty obvious. First fall straight up, pinfall or submission, and then a street fight, and then a steel cage.
Yeah.
Overkill.
It very much. It's so funny because it's overkill within this match. The fact they're having one more match alone is overkill. But no. We get 3 more matches out of these guys. So I thought this segment made Kyle O'Reilly look so bad, and like you would never know if you were to watch this in a fishbowl that Kyle O'Reilly is the babyface of this feud. Because I mean, not only is Adam Cole just leaps and bounds above most people in wrestling, but definitely Kyle O'Reilly in terms of how he speaks, how charismatic he is, how much the crowd was behind him. But they have Kyle O'Reilly pick the first stipulation. He goes, I'm going to pick a straight up wrestling match. And it got nothing. Like, who the hell wants to see that? And then Kyle O'Reilly.
I thought Adam Cole's reaction to that was priceless because Adam Cole looked at him and was like, really? That's what you're going to pick? Like, how lame are you?
Absolutely. And then he picks a street fight, which the people are like, yeah, we want to see that. And it's just, they did such a bad job with positioning Kyle O'Reilly as a babyface of this feud, which, I mean, I didn't think it was good on him. But again, I thought Adam Cole was really good speaking and doing his thing in here.
Yeah.
And then also Kyle O'Reilly said, I'm not going to disrespect William Regal by hitting. That was the first thing out of his mouth. I'm not going to disrespect William Regal by fighting you. And then he initiates the fight at the end.
Yeah. I was a little distracted by Adam Cole's tan. He was very orange tonight. Like, it was almost like coming off. Also, because of the rumors that we've seen, they should have kept security like outside of the ring because every security member was like over 6 feet tall, and I could not stop looking at them compared to Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. I'm like, oh man, this is bad. Also, it bothered me that William Regal did not yell "War Games" and then say, "I'm just kidding, steel cage." I was waiting for it.
Yeah.
But overall, I love seeing Adam Cole cut that promo. It just reminds you how talented he really is and how, you should not let the guy walk away.
New Day Rock 77 $5 to that point, saying, can't they make the stipulation loser leaves NXT? So that'd be fun to see a call up. Man, I mean, Kyle O'Reilly, like, what's he gonna do with Adam gone?
He's gonna be a winner doesn't get a non-compete clause, a 90-day non-compete clause.
Harsh.
Winner gets 15 days.
Just please don't show up on AEW this
Loser gets 6 months, winner gets 90 days.
Stella Justin Lopez $4.99. The Totally Recycling Gargano Cole 3 from TakeOver Toronto. It's the same match, same exact full steps, and Regal picking the 3rd, which was a cage then too. Definitely. Okay, so maybe a little lazy, a little bit.
Yeah, this is like their formula, and maybe it's not the same exact thing, but with Gargano and Ciampa, it was kind of the same type of thing where they were kind of wrestling, and maybe they did wrestle one too many times, but that is definitely the formula that they're using with these two.
And you need a story. When I was watching the Midnight Run movies, you can't have a movie about a bounty hunter chasing down a bail skip if the bail skip doesn't try and get away. If they don't try and get away, you don't have a movie.
Yeah, got to have the conflict. It's like a rom-com, and they have to break up at some point in the movie and then get back together.
Sure. First Midnight Run with De Niro and Charles Grodin, so good. Sequels. Second one has Jeffrey Tambor and Kathy Moriarty as a con artist couple. That was okay. And then it went downhill from there. Steeply downhill from there.
That's too bad.
Man. Anyhow, now I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Midnight Run. Think about Joe Pantoliano. Why isn't he in more things? Everybody loves Joey Pants. Anyhow, Kyle O'Reilly. So yeah, this will be good. They're going to get to the third fall. 2 wins. I don't know. Probably Adam Cole. Adam Cole's got to win, right? With the call up. Adam Cole doesn't leave NXT on a loss.
Oh, sure. Maybe. Why not? I mean, that's the classic wrestling thing is you got to go out on your back. So if the plan is to call him up to the main roster, and if he is going to stay with WWE, I don't see him doing so without being assured that he's going to the main roster. Maybe he does lose because it would really help Kyle O'Reilly, but I'm going to feel like at NXT TakeOver 36, a lot of these wrestlers are going to feel like they're wrestling for their job, and they're just going to go all out and just wrestle. I mean, that's a harsh reality. They're just going to be wrestling like crazy, hoping that they impress the big boss.
Like NXT TakeOver Hunger Games.
I would watch the shit out of that. That would be
officially called because it doesn't have a name and it's just 36. No, it should be Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Hunger Games.
Oh man. Okay, so NXT breakout tournament semifinals match, Ozzy Jones versus Trey Baxter. Ozzy Jones is a goddamn star.
Yes, that's what I got out of this.
He looks so good. I think he might win this.
Yeah, it's him and with Duke Hudson, I think are going to be in that. I mean, Duke Hudson hasn't had his match yet, but I really do think it's going to be him and Duke Hudson. I think both guys have potential, but Odyssey, between his wrestling, which was very good, and even as he improves, at his state right now, I think he's pretty good, but as he improves, he's going to be really good one day. And his promo at the end, I thought he just was so likable. I think the crowd immediately took to him. He seems like a megastar.
You don't think it'll be Hayes just so he gets a win over somebody that people are somewhat familiar with? I mean, I feel like the NXT audience has seen Hayes, so it will do more for Odyssey to beat him. That's just my personal opinion, but either way, I think he wins the whole thing, period, regardless of who he's going against. He's a star. He was great. His charisma is amazing.
Yeah,
no, he's great. Yeah, I could see Hayes possibly. He's just that, especially with Duke Hudson, they had that like backstage vignette. They've had him on commentary. It does seem like they're just kind of grooming him to really be kind of like the next Wade Barrett, because that's who he really reminds me of. Just a big, thick guy who can go and could really talk. But we'll see. I'd love to see Carmelo Hayes in that. And that that'll be very interesting to see that David versus Goliath matchup.
Yeah.
Stellar Justin Lopez, $4.99, saying Jones has it. I see why he's a Vince favorite and working main event and dark matches. I don't know if you make him win. He's basically on the main roster already.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. That's another thing I thought. Like, man, if Vince sees too much of this guy, he's gonna be like, that guy shouldn't be on NXT. He needs to be with me, which could be a life or death for It's not always a good thing when Vince wraps his arms around you.
Yeah. So we went from that to Boa versus Drake Maverick. Drake taking the L here. Boa getting the win.
I forgot about this match.
Yeah. I know. So what are they building? What are they building Boa and Mei Ying towards? What are they building towards?
I know, because they didn't have Xia Li on that. I'm sure she's still suffering from like concussion symptoms, because last time, I think her ribs were bruised with that Raquel Gonzalez match. I don't think we've seen her since.
Wasn't she up in like Raw last night working dark matches or something like that?
No,
she might have been. There was
with Dakota Kai and there was a couple of people there, so she might be better now. I don't know what they're building towards.
Yeah, it was really weird because Vic Joseph was acting all surprised. He's like, "Oh, now Boa is under the tutelage of Mei Ying." It's like, that's been the story for 6 months now.
He's been there forever. Yeah, and then he was like, "She rose from her chair," and I'm like, I think she stood up before too. It was weird, and it's funny because until you brought that up, now I remember it. But for a second, I even forgot that this match was on the card tonight. That's never a good sign.
Well, because they were really hyping this main event, and Dragunov versus Pete Dunne tonight. I didn't like Dunne getting the win, Walter coming out, attacking. I mean, I get it, right? Like, it's supposed to make Dragunov looks like he's getting something back. But I think that with Dragunov and Walter, given that first match and all the hype behind it, like, you want both these guys to look as dominant as possible. I understand if Pete Dunne, maybe his contract situation isn't resolved yet, giving him a win kind of pacifies him a little bit tonight. But I don't know. It just seemed like I would have been more excited about the main event if they would have made Dragunov look more like a monster.
1,000%. And because Pete Dunne's contract is coming up, that's why he probably should have lost. Like the way the wrestling business typically works is until you resign, we're not going to have you win matches and look really hot on TV and then go to the competition. So there's a million reasons why this completely confused me. When they were cutting promos in the ring, I made like a little joke to myself, like, watch them have Pete Dunne win, which I never thought would happen. And the guy who's not even on NXT TakeOver 36 beats a guy who you're building this as one of your bigger matches. We've seen weeks of vignettes, and Walter is a very dominant champion, the most dominant champion in all of WWE in terms of over 600 days or something like that. So now we have to build this guy to be believable in beating him, and he can't even beat Pete Dunne. So this was a shocker. I thought this was horrible. And like now, I have no incentive. Maybe who knows? Maybe he does win. But this remind me of like how NXT is treated as like the little brother to WWE, and where they beat Karrion Kross on Raw. This was that for NXT UK, where it's like, yeah, you got your NXT UK division, but these are the big boys in NXT, so they had to have Pete Dunne win. It was really weird.
Well, and was this his first match on NXT?
Yes.
His first match in the US, and he loses.
It's ridiculous.
Yes. And he's about to fight Walter, and I lost all interest on a match that I was actually really into going into TakeOver, because like Alfred said, if you can't even beat Pete Dunne, you have no chance against Walter then. That being said, I mean, if I didn't know about Pete Dunne's contract, then I would assume that maybe they're building Pete Dunne to be the next NXT contender, and that's why they gave him that win. But it didn't make sense. And I was loving Dragunov, and the match was very good up until the finish. I didn't like the finish. You could have just Walter come out sooner and ended in a weird no finish, just so nobody has to, look bad.
Yeah.
Very odd. Very, very odd. So very odd. Odd end to the show. Didn't like it. It is what it is.
Yeah, there have been way better episodes of it. NXT's in a funk right now. You could kind of feel it. To your point, EC, you're saying it feels weird watching it. I agree. It does feel weird watching it from our end. But I think also there's just a general morass of the show that it needs to come out of.
Well, and this is where a shakeup maybe isn't the worst thing, but it depends on who ends up on top after things are shook up. You know what I mean? Like, who's in charge? I can understand Vince saying, hey, there maybe shouldn't be NXT lifers unless they're also coaches. Like, we have to figure out a way, like, hey, buddy, pal, we're here to build talent. Remember that. Don't lose sight of it. I think NXT could stand a little bit of changing, but overall, this is still, it's been a pretty consistent show for the most part. It's just some of this booking, though. And maybe, so let's really go down this pathway. Maybe doing a little less of this indie-rific booking that they've been doing, will help it differentiate better from AEW by maybe they don't try to compete with AEW at all anymore.
1,000%. Let AEW be the indie-rific company, because they're doing that really well. NXT, if it wants to be different and it doesn't want to be more of what's more popular than it right now, then it does need to take a different direction. I just don't like the idea of associating indie-rific with smaller guys, because as much as I'm partial to bigger guys, like, smaller guys can be stars. Like, it's professional wrestling. You can control what happens. And if somebody has charisma, some of the biggest movie stars in the world are little guys like Tom Cruise, and they make him look big and they play to his strengths and whatnot. You never know that Tom Cruise is as short as he is. But the indie-rific thing is one thing, but the small guys, like, I think there's a whole assortment of people who could be big stars in NXT of various sizes.
Wait, there's no way Hugh Jackman's 6'3". That's a lot. Right. That's some Australian measurement. Like, that's not legit. I do not believe that. Not for a second. Tom Cruise.
Adam Cole is 6 feet tall, so
that's true. True. Tom Cruise is 5'6". Thank you, Justin Lopez. I was just Googling that. 5'7" in lifts. But no, I think. But this is the thing tonight. Like, Dragunov, man, like, just have him dominate. Like, this is the debut. You know.
Yeah. This is a debut. This is a guy that you're building for a big pay-per-view match. It's just academic that you have him go and beat a name guy like Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne could have taken a loss.
Put him in the ring onto TakeOver. Just let him cut his promo and find a different main event.
Absolutely. There was a mystique about him because, like, I've seen Dragunov kind of on the mic, and he's okay, but he's not the best promo.
Yeah.
But I thought his promo tonight I thought it was pretty solid. I thought he got me interested, and I like what they've been doing behind in the backstage vignettes that he was doing with Walter. I thought they really built some mystique around this guy, and they just completely destroyed it tonight.
And especially because we were on such a high note after the index date. And Johnny Gargano at the restaurant. I mean, come on. This could have gone for 5 more segments. I just want to watch this show. We don't even need wrestling. Let's just have a week without wrestling. Let's just follow everybody what they're doing at home. They're reading the dirt sheets and they're like, oh my God.
Speaking of that, I did like the video package with Karrion Kross and mostly because of the Samoa Joe part of it. I thought that was a very good video package. Probably the only interesting thing that they've done with this field based on what we're seeing on Monday nights from Karrion Kross. But I really, really liked it. Just even seeing Samoa Joe getting ready to wrestle again just gets you hyped up.
Yes, this is an excellent video package at prime time. They always knock these out of the park when they do those final go home buildups, and I really like this too.
Yeah, and next Wednesday is the go home before TakeOver 36, and we're going to have the tag titles on the lines, and the cruiserweight title. So there you go. There you go. All-time high interest in NXT tonight. Some of our best NXT numbers ever. Live watching the show. We all care about NXT. We all love NXT. And Vince, I swear, if you ruin this thing, I'm going to start watching Impact. And very few people say those words in the year 2021, but I'm saying it.
Glenn, don't make him do it. Glenn, smile because it happened. Don't be sad that it's ending.
Just have Boys to Men playing in the background. Maybe I'll go further back. Maybe we'll go the Cooley High version. Play that in the background.
Do that.
Also, NXT needs to get out of the CWC, even if it's for a short tour. Oh my God, I don't like this setting for them. It's also bringing the vibe. Like, it doesn't pass the vibe check at all.
Yeah, they definitely need a new venue. They need life. The audience does as good as they can, but it's only going to be so loud and seem like such a big deal with, so few people there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So final thoughts tonight.
Let's wait and see. I feel like we're in a holding pattern with NXT. Like, NXT TakeOver 36 should be a fun show. I pray that it's going to be in Vegas in a big venue, but we'll see. We'll just see.
They would have announced it by now.
Yeah, they probably would have announced it by now. I'm more excited to see what happens after TakeOver 36 at this point, given all that's gone on behind the scenes.
Same. I agree with everything that Alfred said, and when I look at TakeOver now, I think that they raised my interest in Samoa Joe, Karrion Kross, and Dakota Kai and Raquel, but my interest on the NXT UK title match kind of went down today based on that finish. So that makes me sad because I was really looking forward to that.
There you go. So tomorrow night, AEW Dynamite, Friday night, SmackDown, and then for the first time ever, AEW Rampage. The three of us are going to be here to talk about SmackDown and then Rampage. We're going to watch 3 hours of wrestling. I'm going to have flashbacks. And then we're going to come on the podcast and talk about it, try and bang it out in like an hour. It's going to be good. So we're going to start an hour later Friday night. Update.
Well, we're going to cover schedules. 2 shows.
We're going to cover 2 shows. Now, everyone be nice to each other when we do that. We tried doing this before. 2 shows on Wednesday. Didn't go so hot. We're going to really make an effort on Friday.
Let's all just get along, everybody.
Let's all just get along.
Okay. It's more fun.
On that note, she is at NYC Demon Diva. That's Diva with a 1. He is at This Is Nasty. I'm at Glenn Rubenstein. We'll catch you back here next time on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.